Montalvo Broadcasting Network. Support MBN, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, and shop with us over at Montalvo Store. Go to ebay.com and search in the advanced search. Type in Montalvo Store. Now support Montalvo Broadcasting Network. We have a wide array of books on conspiracy, apparel, and much more. Support your favorite radio station, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, by visiting Montalvo Store on ebay.com.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock, conceptual subculture for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, orgonite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
If you're looking for the coolest apparel, jewelry, bracelets, earrings, the stylish and hippest clothing around, go to Poshmark.com. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. At Anti-Culture. The coolest, hippest apparel on the internet. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. Bruce Montalvo.
Continues to spread conspiracy theories.
Penchant for promoting bogus conspiracies as though they were fact.
About his conspiracy theory.
This is CNN, a network of China Broadcasting System.
Bruce Montalvo's the only radio talk show host that's not controlled.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is July 27, 2019, and you're listening to a very special broadcast, very special show. On the line with me, I have Illuminati researcher and InfoWars show host. You've seen him on InfoWars. You've seen him on The War Room. He's joining me now on the Bruce Montalvo show. It's Leo Zagami is joining me. Hello, Leo.
Hello, Bruce. Nice to be on your show, and thank you for having me on.
It's great to have you on, Leo, and you're in America, breathing the sweet American air of freedom.
Absolutely. America is still the land of freedom and of hope for those freedom fighters and those people seeking real liberty worldwide.
That's right. No, you know a thing or two about secret societies, having been involved in them in Italy. You know that you take an oath and they threaten to kill you. They've done that many times. You had to run over here to America where you know that at least we're trying to preserve freedom here from the communist, Marxist, Leninists that have it on assault.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of similarities with what is happening here to what happened a few years back in Europe, and I hope that the US manages to resist, because it's all about resistance against these globalists that want to transform America in another socialist nightmare, just like they did with Europe. So I had to flee my country, I had to come over here, but now hopefully I'm in safe hands. At least until Donald J. Trump is our president.
That's right. No, you could, you have your Second Amendment here. You know, Italy was I hate to say it, but it was the motherland of fascism, having created it.
You are completely right. In fact, actually, I had problems with a specific law which was devised during fascism in 1930 by Benito Mussolini, and it's a law that, of course, they did to censor journalists or people who want to, of course, expose the dark side of fascism. Right. I think that it's important for people to know that as bad as you can have it here in the US at the moment is nothing compared to what is going on in Europe. I mean, it's a really bad situation. It's a situation that has forced me and my family to come over here with not many certainties. Of course, I am collaborating with InfoWars, I'm publishing my books, but it's very hard to make it. And of course, I ask for the people who are listening or who are watching us today in whatever channels that of course this transmission may go, to buy my books, because that's a way to support my work and make sure that I will keep on doing what I'm doing, because it's very hard at the moment with all the expenses I have to, of course, endure as a legal immigrant, which is very different from being somebody who's jumping off the fence and joining us from Mexico.
Oh, man, no. There's a complete onslaught on the borders. I'm in Arizona, and it's they're coming in here armed to the teeth. But you talked about being with InfoWars. You know, InfoWars is completely under assault. They have all sorts of comedians, left-wing comedian, the left-wing media. They're always attacking them. They're saying, oh, well, they have evidence that they have child porn, or Donald Trump raped these little girls, when all the evidence points to comedians like Stephen Colbert probably getting high off walnut sauce, looking like a vampire with his buddies like John Podesta. I mean, all the evidence points to them, Leo.
Okay, so let's take it from where you started the discussion. I actually had the possibility to deliver a speech in Arizona, so I actually was capable of visiting your whole state. During the time I was there, I encountered some very fine patriots. And I'm very glad that Arizona is still Arizona.
I saw you. You came through Kingman. Yeah. Did you find any nice turquoise out there? A lot of turquoise.
Well, I went to Kingman, and then I went Flagstaff, and I went. But before arriving there, you know, I went through the whole of Arizona, and it's a beautiful state. I must say, really incredible. Oh, so regarding instead where we are. When it comes down to the attack we have on censorship, on freedom, on the freedom of speech, we have seen that the social media have been increasingly pushing the libertard agenda, the socialist agenda, and of course we know that in California this is the tendency, and especially in Silicon Valley they have made the whole thing, really, the headquarters of this Orwellian socialist nightmare that is taking over the world. Because Silicon Valley is not important only for the United States of America. I mean, when you are the driving force of companies like Facebook, Google, and all the rest, and you are there at the center of this new technology and these new apps and innovations that have completely revolutionized our lives, the responsibility that they have up there is pretty big. So my intention is to actually move here to California, try to see if things might change, if we can find like-minded people like myself who are actually getting increasingly fed up of seeing their city reduced to scum. Because
I hear that.
From the view of Arizona, when I went in places like Los Angeles, to places like Austin, and other places that, of course, are dominated by the libtards, these cities are not what they used to be. They are completely ruined by this tolerance.
Believe me, I know, Leo. I'm from L.A. myself, but really, how much hope is left for Los Angeles? Because I don't know if you know, I had a former Secret Service guy on the other day, and he knew a thing or two about the China Lake complex. I mean, the Europeans, they should go and storm the Vatican while we storm either Area 51 or places like China Lake, because in California, I think they're doing some type of very strange tests underground in these facilities, and they could easily say, "Oh, it's the earthquakes," but I mean, it can be the earthquakes. I mean, you're right there. I don't know if you're familiar with the Salton Sea. That's a huge slip fault there. You could have a 9.9 and up hit from Imperial County in California all the way to the Bay Area in less than 9 seconds. Very dangerous, my friend.
Very dangerous, but
they're tiptoeing on Hades. They're on the brink of dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight.
Yeah, people have told me, "Are you scared of earthquakes?" Well, I was brought up in between Sicily and mainland Italy, and especially in the Aeolian Islands, where I come from, and in Sicily there is a lot of earthquakes. So since I was a child, I experienced earthquakes. Plus, in mainland, I used to live near the region of Abruzzo, which of course we knew what has happened in Aquila with the destruction of a whole city 10 years ago. So I mean, I have witnessed many earthquakes, and I think that in the end you really are in the hands of God when you are dealing with earthquakes.
Right.
So it's up to God's will, and that's why I actually endorse in a trip right at the center of this, where this earthquake, of course, had an epicenter, and it was in the Mojave Desert. Somehow it's close to Baker, and so I wanted to go and actually in the middle of the desert and check out where this epicenter was. And I went there, and then during my trip, which brought me into the outskirts of the Mojave Reserve, I ended up surrounded by people in mob gear, policemen and stuff, and I don't know what we're searching for. But I mean, it's always interesting to travel around and to actually view things, even if, of course, it's always a risk to travel. No, but I went so many states, so many different people. I went to places that were incredible. I mean, like the tomb of Billy the Kid. I mean, man. Places that definitely are at the core of American
Wild West.
And people need to really learn, and the Americans should learn how to detach from their smartphones, which are obviously are part of this plan to enslave us, and view the real world. And they have so much of it here in America, all these beautiful states with a lot of history, with a lot of incredible places to view. So I think that people should do that absolutely, and should indulge more in viewing the real world, because you see, that's the problem. They want to detach us from the real world. They want to make people like Zuckerberg want to surround us with virtual reality more and more. Now, virtual reality seems to still be on the outskirts of our life, yet it's not so invasive. But in a few years from now, there will be whole sides of society that will be entrapped by virtual reality.
It's the next big thing. I mean, that's the transhumanist wet dream, the satanic transhumanist wet dream, as I like to put it.
Absolutely. And of course, we were talking before we started the show of what we will be discussing today. You told me, let's discuss also the subject of the Jesuits, which of course is an important subject. The Jesuits are at the core of this new world order. For 5 centuries, they have been implementing it to arrive to this moment in history where they have a pope actually in charge as a Jesuit. It was all very well planned, so it wasn't like just let's put a Jesuit pope. I mean, they waited 5 centuries before having their own pope. Right. And they waited 5 centuries because they want to have every single section of our society under their control, under their spell. We know that large sections of the CIA, of other intelligence agencies, are in the hands of the Catholics, and the Jesuits are very important in this frame of work. And then we have another side of, for example, of the CIA these days that is also ruled by a lot of Mormons joining in.
Oh, yeah.
Mormons seem to have, with the fact that they have opened a new temple in Rome, and we all know that you can't really open a temple in Rome without the approval of the Vatican. So the Mormons must, and this I heard also from people within the Mormon community, the upper echelons of the Mormon community in Utah and Salt Lake City must have made a deal with the devil, meaning the Vatican. And that's why it's important to really understand also what's going on within Mormonism.
Oh yeah, they're making their moves. They've always had front row seats to Armageddon. But I want to ask you, Leo, the Jesuits, the Catholic leaders in charge that are higher above than Pope Francis, they've been trying to get him to resign for like the past year now, and you wrote about that in your last book, how he's scheduled to be the last pope just tell us about that. What's going on with that? Are they going to get rid of him soon? Yeah,
I mean, it's important to understand that the last pope was really the last real pope with a little bit of real Catholicism tradition was Ratzinger. Because
that's right, Benedict.
With Pope Francis, we have really the loss of all the traditions, the destruction of all Catholic dogmas, embracing the last steps so the Catholic religion can fully join the new world order. You see, the threat, the fear that the Jesuits have is not to embark in this one world religion, so not to be left behind, because they are trying to prepare and pave the way for the bigger plan, which will embrace, of course, the Antichrist also as a living figure.
The one world religion, yes. These Valley Leaks scandals, how damaging were they? I mean, they obviously caused Pope Benedict to Ratzinger to resign, and now they must be going batshit crazy with all these bones they're finding, all these victims that they're digging up under the crypts. I mean, how crazy is it right now in Rome and at the Vatican?
I think that people give a lot of importance to these bones, forgetting that there is a really long tradition in ossuaries. I also said that on I think I was in the war room with Owen the other day, and I repeated this concept. There's been a lot of ossuaries in the history of the Catholic Church dedicated to specific Catholic orders. It's a little bit unusual that these ossuaries, especially if they are in the Vatican, they are not mapped. So that gives us a little bit of, thoughts regarding what is really happening. And so that is really the question. But when it comes down to the Jesuits are themselves, of course, in charge of the modernization of this church, and together with the progressive side of Freemasonry, which is not to be confused with the traditional Masons, but it should be understood that there is two factions in Freemasonry that have been fighting themselves very strongly since 1875 till now. A faction close to the Grand Orient of France with the Jesuits behind, and another faction more traditionalist, which was the United Grand Lodge of England. Unfortunately, now even that United Grand Lodge of England faction in the last 20 years has been taken over by the infiltration of the Jesuits and the Grand Orient of France. I myself witnessed it when I was in the United Grand Lodge of England in Kirby Lodge 2818. There was this guy, Julian Rees, who suddenly and he was one of the most senior members. I think he's still alive now, and he's also a very important author. He's an ex-intelligence operative, the MI6. Well, Julian Rees, this guy in particular, used to be my mentor, so I knew him quite closely, but I was pretty impressed when he started to tell me that he was actually joining these meetings in the Grand Orient of France, which for somebody from the United Lodge of England will not be permitted. He actually came into the United Lodge of England one day wearing the pin of the Grand Orient of France, just to show that he was completely, he was an Illuminati and he can do whatever he wants. I mean, but that was because the Grand Orient of France, the Illuminati, and the Jesuits have taken control of the other factions of Freemasonry. And I'm sorry to say that this has also influenced negatively Freemasonry here in the United States, because there is a lot of confusion here in the United States. they have a lot of problems in understanding really what goes on in Europe and in Great Britain. So
that's right. How have the Muslim factions of Freemasonry infiltrated the very top, upper echelon of the hierarchy of the Jesuits?
Who infiltrated the what? Sorry,
the Muslim factions, the Islamic Brotherhood.
No, the Jesuits eventually helped creating
They created them, right?
Islamic Brotherhood, which was actually more close to Great Britain to some extent.
That's right.
It was a way for Great Britain to influence the Middle East even after. Remember that Israel used to be in the hands of Great Britain, of England, before it became Israel. So, I mean, all that area, and
right.
Part of it instead was influenced by the Ottoman Empire. So there was this great conflict between England and the Ottoman Empire. And so that people, maybe they need to study a lot of history to really understand better the background.
Oh, yeah. No, if they study history, they'll know that Saladin is still around, probably trying to run for Democrat, and the Moors are still running around, too, running as Democrats, going, la, 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 la.
The thing is this, when it comes down to the Muslims, both factions, the Sunni and the Shiites, have been very easily manipulated and infiltrated by the Vatican and by the New World Order, by the Illuminati, who have always, since the time of the Knights Templars, the two factions, both the Sunni and the Shiites, were always manipulated by the West in some way. Now, when the Jesuits came along with Ignacio Loyola, of course, one of the first objectives was to get rid of the Muslim influence in southern Spain. But once they got rid of the whole of Islam geopolitically in Europe, at that point, of course, they started to go in the infiltration mode, because the Jesuits are always the ones who like to infiltrate. Huh?
That's right.
So we learned, for example, that Hans Kovenbach, who used to be the general of the Jesuits 10 years ago, before he resigned, he's still alive, I think. Hans Kovenbach resided up till not so long ago in Lebanon, for example, and many other senior Jesuits resided as Muslims in the Middle East, because the Jesuits have converted to Islam before others, and wow. There is also cardinals in the Vatican that have converted to Islam. But people don't understand that secretly a lot of Jesuits have converted to Islam, so they're not Christians.
Oh no, you see Pope Francis or all the other popes kissing the Quran. A lot of them. No, I want to talk about who's really running the show over there, and it's not Pope or the popes. It's the Jesuit generals themselves. Well, you had like you said, Kolvenbach, and back in the day it was Janssens, and you had Adolfo Nicolas, who just resigned, and now you have this new guy, Arturo Sosa, who says that he said it outright. He said the Pope is not the chief of the church. So he's pretty much saying that he's got the big cojones.
That Sosa, the big guy. Now, one thing that we really need to understand about the Jesuits, it seems like in the last, the last three Jesuit generals, we see this continuation. Is either Spanish aristocratic blood, or either is Netherlands, Northern European black aristocracy, traditionally always close to the Vatican, always close to the Jesuits, and they are the ones who then take control of the Jesuits. You see, the Jesuits is not an order that has some kind of family on top of it. It's, of course, but it has a series of families that have definitely helped craft the order in a way that they have been influential within the order. You see, a lot of aristocratic families, even royal families, when they started seeing the escalation of the Jesuits, their power, they wanted to be involved. So if you had maybe 4 or 5 children, you will always have a couple who will send, a sister, maybe, and a brother. One will become a nun, the other one will become a priest. In the case of even the more common Catholic families. But in the case of the aristocrats, of the royals, they want to have a cardinal, they want to have a bishop, or they want to have a Jesuit, because the Jesuit guaranteed them a specific amount of influence in certain quarters, which always, the Jesuits have been the scientists of the church, they have always been the politicians, the espionage gathering of the church.
They're at the front of it all, Leo. I mean, that just reminds me of, we were talking about all this American history and American, exceptionalism. And the Jesuits, actually, they were at George Washington's deathbed. I mean, he wouldn't have any other priest. It had to be a Jesuit priest. And this is the tradition. You see almost every president from Kennedy to Eisenhower to Trump today, they're always going and shaking the hands of the Jesuits.
Of course, we have the Jewish side of things. Now we have the great rabbis, we have those people who basically 2,000 years ago were together with ancient Rome.
No, they want the magic there, yeah. And then the Knights Templar, all that goes back to that as well, those holy lands, yes.
Yeah, but let's go back to 2,000 years ago, where it all started, to Jesus Christ, Jesus who was sent on the cross by this the power of Rome, and also the power of the Synod, the power of the rabbis. Now, it's obvious that there is a lot of corruption within the Jewish and the Israeli establishment.
Oh, well, that's where the heart of the magic, all the hermetic power, I mean, the 72 demons, I mean, they got all the old textbooks, but now the Vatican went there and took it, right? I mean, they got all the codes and the secret, incantations, and that's I want to get into Hollywood, and that's the heart of all this pedophilia that's coming out, Leo. They actually admitted, they had the girl from Stranger Things. She's 13 years old, and they're saying Hollywood's trying to normalize pretty much pedophilia, saying that she's making TV sexy. And then you got Katy Perry saying, or it's rumored that she's saying that she eats human flesh. I mean, these people are satanic.
Let me conclude with what I'm saying regarding the Vatican, because when it comes to the Jesuits, Ignazio Loyola himself was suspected to be a crypto Jew or somebody from the Jewish faith who was embraced the Christian faith, like many others in Spain, to survive the Inquisition.
Oh, yeah. They had to hide the mezuzah in the foot of the Virgin Mary to survive.
In the end, what happened was that after the Second World War, and after we saw, of course, the great tragedy that was the Holocaust, and
that's right.
It was written that Israel would get their state, so in the end they got the state, and it was prophesied. So, it comes with positive and bad sides, So, I mean, you can't get one without the other. But one thing I can say, definitely, they look a lot more civilized in Israel than in the rest of the Middle East, which is basically a series of shitholes.
Yes. They're coming up with lasers over there and technology. Israel's one of the allies of the United States. I mean, you can't get the Palestinians to be pro-American, and they're burning American flags and spitting on them left and right, and they're coming over here and getting on welfare. I mean, they're disgusting people they're nomads in my opinion, but go on, Leo.
The important thing is to understand that there was an alliance made during the Second Vatican Council, which I have described very much in Volume 2 of my Confession, which is still now one of my most censored books.
That's right.
It was actually forbidden for some reason. It's forbidden. The County Jail Association of Prisons, whatever that is called, in Arizona, has prohibited the people who are inmates in their prisons to read my books.
Oh, my God.
And in the specific Volume 2 of my Confessions, which touches on this subject, which is basically how the Second Vatican Council became the moment in which the Jesuits met with the Jewish tradition and kind of crafted a deal together. You have to understand that people generalize a little bit the Jewish people, the Jewish faith, the state of Israel. But in reality, even there, you have a clash between conservative and progressive forces, because socialism and communism, unfortunately, have been plaguing the people of Israel and the Jewish people forever, from the beginning. Communism has been part of the reason why people probably hate so much.
Well, if I've done some research, I see Pope Pius and his final solution. I mean, exterminating all these Jews. I mean, it's really disgusting. The Vatican still continues the persecution of the Jewish people in a way. You know, it's a war against the Jews also, the true Jews. I mean, you got all sorts of Jews. I mean, you got Chinese Jews, you got Spanish Jews. I mean, there are Italian Jews. You know, it's the government there that I think is not controlled by Israel. I mean, these people did not that are controlling Israel they didn't prosecute Mengele. They let Mengele go. So what does that tell you? Right? They let Mengele go.
Yeah, but it's because of the Vatican.
That's right.
Nazis could get away, and it was also because at the time the Vatican was built up to protect from communism. You see, there was a moment of time. Now we see the Vatican promoting socialism,
and Marxism.
Being at the forefront of it. But there was a time many years ago in which the Vatican was actually the extreme opposite. It was the one that was fighting communism. People like John Paul II, who came from an ex-communist country, hated and knew how much damage communism could do. So that really is the big change that we have seen since the Second Vatican Council, and gradually we have seen this progressive faction, that initially, even John Paul II in the early 80s, he tried to stop the Jesuits from pushing all this liberal theology, all this socialism, all these progressive ideas. But you see, when you have a plan, which of course is structured by very forces that are really powerful and on top of everything,
right,
Paul II in the end couldn't stop this plan. And so in the end, even if he presided over, at one point he wanted to even, he forced, I think, one of the Jesuit generals of that time to actually resign because of this. But in the end, he didn't really conclude anything, and gradually, after he was actually shot, as you know, Pope John Paul II, so he was not anymore in the good shape he was before, and maybe he was also shot because they wanted to send him a signal.
Message,
You see, people think about the
mafiosi.
Attempted assassination of John Paul II as a whole plot devised by Eastern Europe, blah, 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 and this guy, Ali Shah, was then arrested, and blah, blah, blah. But things are very different from how they look like. This plot was an internal plot, and of course there is things that people don't know, like the Ali Shah apparently was actually armed by a Freemason from Sicily who was in the P2 Lodge.
That's right.
So you see, the actual, they were actually planning to kill this Pope for sending a signal to this Pope. This Pope wanted to persecute the Jesuits and their liberal theology, their progressive mindset.
Well, the pedophiles, right? I mean, that's who the P2 Lodge is. It's a lodge of pedophiles.
Well, the P2 is not really, I tell you the truth, the P2 back in the days was a very fascist lodge. They hated pedophiles.
So they got infiltrated.
No, yeah, they got infiltrated, and they realized that many years after. I remember it was probably 2004, 4, I can't remember exactly, but when the P2, the treasurer of the P2, Ezio Giunquilla, realized that Ratzinger was gay, and that there was this whole pedophilia thing going on. I mean, they were a little bit slow in realizing that, because they themselves always had this butch image of they being, the macho, mafiosi, and...
Meanwhile, Ratzinger's got a boyfriend with a pink cowboy hat in there.
Yeah, no, then when this whole thing came out, I remember I was in Oslo at that time, and I remember I received this phone call, and it was, I said, do you know, I discovered oh, Ratzinger is gay, he has a laugh. Everybody in Rome knows. I knew this for ages. I just didn't want to tell you because, I mean, it's like, it seemed a bad thing. I mean, you are faithful. Maybe you want to keep on believing in this rubbish, but I stopped believing in this rubbish a long time ago. So the people in the P2 actually, at the time of in the early 80s, when all these scandals, the disappearance of Emanuele Orlandi, which is connected to the famous bombs that you mentioned earlier on, or the killing of Roberto Calvi, Michele Sindo. There was a lot of people that were killed, a lot of people that disappeared, and all these people, of course, were part of a situation which was very tense geopolitically, because the United States was using the Vatican to crack the Soviet Union and the whole structure, and of course the finances went through the Vatican Bank to then be able to finance Solidarność in Poland, and then, of course, in other parts of the Soviet, also not only of Europe, of Eastern Europe, but also even of countries of the Soviet Union that were still in the Soviet Union but started to have infiltrations. And in this infiltration, of course, the Muslims like Fethullah Gulen and his organization played a role, because the US used them to crack down those parts of the Soviet Union which were originally Muslim. And so the moment in which the Soviet Union went in a crisis, they gradually resurfaced as Muslim.
Oh, man.
So people say that I never mentioned Israel. I mean, this is complete rubbish and it's complete baloney. I have actually written extensively about it in my books, and I explained how there is different factions at work, but also the Zionist faction is the labor Zionist faction, the faction that we really have to fear, more than the traditional Zionists that simply want the state of Israel. The labor Zionists are the socialists, are the communists, are the atheists of the Jewish tradition, the ones who have lost their own faith in their own tradition.
So there's a lot of sections now at play that are trying to censor American free speech, and a lot of them are foreign. I mean, it's not just there. I mean, you got organizations such as Madlef, or Mexican organizations, communist, a ton of organizations that if you wanted to be a stand-up comic today and say a joke, I mean, they all got their guns to your head.
In the end, of all these organizations that you mentioned, it prevails two different factions here. A faction that, of course, is directly controlled by the Jesuits.
That's right.
And another one which is controlled by Israeli, Mossad, that of course works hand in hand with the Jesuits.
Well, we're hearing a lot about the whole pedophilia thing and how the Mossad is getting girls for guys like Epstein or Weinstein, so I hear that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to break today. Now, there is, in the case of Epstein, some direct links with the Vatican that today I would like to discuss in this show.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the direct link is with a lady from Germany called Nicole Junkermann. Okay, now this Nicole Junkermann basically is a very powerful lady, close to, is an Epstein associate. Nobody's really talking much about it because, this very, very attractive lady has been around for a long time in intelligence circles. She has been infiltrating organizations, opening up startups, doing all kinds of things. And she actually has been involved also in the infamous Panama Papers and, of course, linked to the Mossad. So the interesting thing about the connection with Nicole Junkermann, that recently had also infiltrated the UK NHS, which is basically the state health organization. So with this infiltration, now she managed to access the information of millions of health people. The health of every single British person is now in the hands of whoever, probably the Mossad. She handed this information. But the interesting thing regarding this person that, of course, traveled on the infamous Florida Express many times, on many occasions, is that she is, of course, linked to Bill Clinton, and other people like that. But the interesting thing about Nicole Junkermans is that she was born in Dassendorf. Dassendorf is really a classy place, a tradition. They call it a little bit the Venice of Germany. Very nice place. I went there when I was young, and it's where all the elite hangs out in Dassendorf. She studied business administration at the International University of Monaco. She went into management development. But the interesting thing is then she was multilingual, and she went into study not only English, but French, Italian, and Spanish. Now, when it comes to the links with Italy, she's married with an Italian guy. Now, this Italian guy, I want to pick up his name, I have it somewhere, is connected directly to the Vatican. He's an aristocrat, and so basically we have a direct link between Epstein and the Vatican through this woman that is still trying to hide behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Which we need to expose further, which is an Epstein associate, which traveled many times on the Reader's Express, and it's linked to the Mossad also. So people should look into
That's breaking news. I got to share with you this. I've been doing my fair share of research into the Epstein case, and he's involved with the CIA and mind control programs. He was brought up out of nowhere. He was in Harvard studying brain waves. He's actually a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, a trilateral commission. I mean, he's high level into studying people's brains. And you know what they say, the drug of choice of some of these elite, quite macabre, is the adrenaline gland of a living human body.
Well, I would like to go more into the business that links Brachetti Beretti, because I go, as an investigative journalist, I like to go right to the... When you follow the money trail, you get to the substance.
That's right. Money, money, money. Show me the money.
So the wealthy Brachetti Peretti family, the Count Aldo Maria, he's a count. So already the fact that he's an Italian count should give you already the...
That's
but
right.
It's not only a normal count. This guy, his mother was for more than 30 years in the Red Cross and is the only woman in Italy to carry the military grade of general.
Wow.
Now, we know also that the Red Cross, together with the Vatican, was the one that slipped out all those Nazis we were mentioning earlier. Another thing that is interesting about Braghetti's Peretti, because this guy is quite older than his wife. Of course, the wife is 5 years younger than me, so approximately 44. He's around 60. He is connected since, as I said, in March 2017, he married with Nicole Junkerman, who is directly connected with Epstein, and they have a daughter. And but now let's go to the links to the elite. Now, Brachetti Peretti, the husband, was formerly married to Princess Mafalda Margaret von Hessen, daughter of Prince Maurice of Hesse and Prince Tatiana of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Bergenburg. We're talking here about serious old school money and power.
Yeah, monarchies, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So Brachetti Peretti and his new wife, connected to Epstein, function as a trade union with a whole reality, which is the Vatican, because you have to understand that this guy, Ferdinando Maria Brachetti Peretti, is a guy who is linked with the Knights of Malta in the Vatican, the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre in the Vatican, and so on, with various Masonic orders, irregular Masonic orders, and various knighthoods close to the Vatican, aside from the ones I already mentioned. So we can say that with Epstein there is a lot to investigation to do, because at one point in Rome, approximately maybe 7 years ago, they stopped, I think, at the Fiumicino airport, a Mossad agent who had a bag full of organs, ready for transplant.
Oh, Epstein's a total CIA agent. I mean, they found diamonds and passports. I mean, this guy is high level. Like I said, mind control. He's probably those dental chairs he had there. He probably had them to speculating here. So what a talk show host does, probably ripping out the adrenaline gland right out of people's heads.
But the thing is,
sick bastard.
Trafficking, harvesting and trafficking of organs goes on a lot between the Vatican, Israel, and all those countries, China, that want to make money and keep on this new world order and going on with, like you said, there is also some things that are maybe being experimented for the elite that keep them a little bit younger.
Yeah.
The elite has been involved in all sorts of things to try to keep themselves younger for a long time. I mean, the elixir vitae is a myth that is reoccurring. But we have to understand that Epstein has some direct links that, of course, in the end will prove either fatal for him, meaning that he will die.
Oh, they almost killed him the other night. They found him unconscious, lying in his cell. I mean, Bill and Hillary tried to get at him. They're like, "Oh man, he made it." They didn't kill him.
Bill and Hillary are not the only ones who are worried. Here we're talking about Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew, when it comes to powerful people, is a bit more powerful than Bill and Hillary. Prince Andrew represents the British monarchy. You can't touch the British monarchy without having on your backs a bunch of 007s that are going to kill you.
That's right.
And so I think that Epstein is in big trouble. Now, he can either reveal as soon as he can what he knows, or he risks his life, because I think this game of wanting to give information only in exchange of his freedom or a sentence that is less than 5 years is not going to work out.
Oh, man.
I mean, he's basically risking his life, and he needs to understand that no matter if the Mossad protects him or doesn't protect him, because at this point, I will not trust anybody.
Oh, no. No, even in the witness protection program, what's the best they could do for him? Give Epstein a job as a Chuck E. Cheese rat? I mean, it's not gonna last.
And all this, of course, is a sort of circus, mediatic circus, in which Epstein is being entrapped for the last few years. Because I mean, we have been hearing about Epstein, the pedophile, the pervert, for the last 5-6 years. Still, with no real results. Now he's been arrested. Now he might die before he even opens his mouth. Let's hope he doesn't.
Oh, there might be a lot of celebrities in Hollywood right now that are trembling, because that's where they're taking over the meme of pedo wood. There are a lot of people in LA actually going out there and putting on the billboards for Quentin Tarantino movies. They're putting Epstein's face, and the Hollywood, they're saying pedo wood, and that's how they're vandalizing a lot of these billboards. I mean, it's in every show, Leo. I mean, like I said earlier, they're sexualizing young girls. I mean, as young as 12, and talking about eating human flesh, that it's good. I mean, this is insane. This is bizarro world.
The fact that rich people have always been up to some eccentric behavior, and that the more you are rich and the more you want to do some fucked up shit. So I mean, that's pretty normal. But we are in a situation now in which these things are being exposed, increasingly exposed, where we are fed up to have all this hypocrisy from the elite. You know, they are putting themselves always on the moral high ground. They're always putting themselves as they are superior to us, as they are the ones who are giving us the good advice. But that's not the case, because most of the time their advice is always manipulated and is given to us with a specific purpose. And so I would like to tell you now, we have, of course, not so long before we will close down with your show. It was a great show, by the way, because we have the opportunity to discuss so many things today in this.
Thank you for being on, Leo. Yes, it's a pleasure.
I think that it's important that people understand there is a connection also not only with Israel, the Mossad, but also with the Vatican. We have to understand that in Israel there is also some very good people that are fed up of the agenda of the Rothschild, of the socialist agenda that they want to push even on the people of Israel, the religious people.
Well, that's a big part of it, Leo, is the Rothschild central banking system that so controls America, that has us running to places like Iran or whoever doesn't have a central bank that's controlled by these people. I mean, in reality, America is almost just the same as everybody else now. They're all controlled by these central banks. It's terrible. Terrible thing.
Yeah, but there is a difference here. And that's why I'm here and I'm not in Europe.
Oh, yes. I agree.
Here, people have guns, people have their sovereignty.
Balls. We still have balls here. But they're trying to take those away, too.
The first, second amendment, we have rights that other countries simply don't have. So I commend you for of course doing what you're doing, Bruce, with your show. But remember that you are privileged. Being here in the U.S. in this situation, we are privileged here.
We are.
We need to stay this way, and we need to. These people like it's terrible what these people are doing to the U.S. The squad, the so-called squad. The Inano Mar and all those people.
They're just a psyop. I think it's a data mining so that they could know how many socialists are out there that agree with these crazy broads. But in the end, Leo, I think that it's a republic as long as we could keep it, right? As long as, like you said, as long as we fight for the republic, we could keep the republic. But if we fall asleep and we stay on our asses, forget about it, But, are they really going to come pick up the guns with this squad, or are they just going to show up one day and say, okay, hand over your gun? I'll tell you how we're going to hand them over. We're gonna unload on them, probably, the whole American spirit of America there.
Yeah, that's it. I think
that's how you're going to get them. Unloaded.
I think
you know what I mean.
They want to push towards... breaking the basis of American society, and they want to push the civil war inevitably on us, and even the Catholic Church is doing that. I mean, I have reported yesterday about it. The Catholic Church is inciting people to act and breaking the law.
Civil war. They want a civil war here in America, and it's the Vatican that's at the forefront of it. You're so right.
Absolutely. So the U.S. will never disarm. Absolutely, you're completely right. And we will have to stay here to guard for the liberties that unfortunately the rest of the world is losing. And one day we will have to go and free those countries that now are losing gradually all the liberties. Because you think that Europe is going to stay like this. Europe is going to it's going to become a chaotic place with civil wars, Muslims.
Just look what they're doing to guys like Tommy Robinson out there. It's terrible. Anyway, Leo, let's tell our audience where they could find your books, and let's wrap this bad boy up. Thank you for being on, Leo Zagami.
You can find my books, of course, in Barnes & Noble if you go in any bookshop here in the U.S., but also on Amazon. You can order them, and order especially volume 6.66, because this book is really a positive way of understanding things that are really at the moment not being discussed by anybody else, because nobody wants to discuss the subject technology in relation with demonology or with this satanic takeover. So the fact that there is a threat of cyber Satan, and we can become aware of it and then stop before it's too late, because this Elon Musk thing means we are nearly there the moment they will implant us with the microchip.
We'll bow down to the AI God. Yes, I was bowed down to the AI God. Check out his book, The Last Pope, and Illuminati Masters, Invisible Masters. He knows what the Illuminati knows. Leo.
Thank you so much. It was great to be on your show, Bruce. All the best.
Thank you. We'll have you on soon. Thank you, Leo, for being on.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Signing out. That was Leo Zagami. That was one hell of a show. Exposing what they don't want you to know. Right? So, pretty much an encyclopedia of esoterica. You're listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show. We'll be back. Tune in Mondays, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Fridays, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Sayonara. Been the Bruce Montalvo Show.
Montalvo Broadcasting Network.